Well, if we need it, we'll keep it
Yeah,
handy.
just hang around out there.
You're the one that needs to handle it.
Let's see.
I did the staple mine.
So Benji and Todd, y'all might wanna wait in the lobby since you're next. We're gonna have these two first.
Okay,
Is
yep,
that okay?
yep.
Yeah, sure.
And
That
then
is
as soon as
fine.
they leave, you come in.
Yep.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Hey. Hey, how are you? I'm good, thanks. Hey. Hey. I'm good, thanks. How are you? I said, I'm good, thanks. How are you? We're just trying to figure out. I just, can we tell Feline when we come in? Yeah.
Harry?
Rainy weather. Rainy weather.
How you doing? Good to see you too.
We are in here.
Where is he, John Blake? I thought I saw his truck out, he may be on a phone call sitting in his truck.
Okay.
I think that's his truck, it's black.
Well, I'm real black.
Right. I'm not sure about dog.
Chevrolet? We
No,
talking
he
about the
don't
mayor?
have Chevrolet anymore, it's a Dodge.
The mayor?
No. He got an offer too good to resist. Sorry about your father-in-law.
Thank you.
Steve.
Yes, Steve, I can go.
Thank you.
Mine also, Steve. Yeah, Rose is young enough. Yeah, yeah.
He's like younger.
Yeah. She married my older brother, a real good friend of mine in high school.
John,
Yeah.
Cindy Duncan,
Yeah,
see their daughter died?
yeah, how old was she?
I don't know, but I would say thirties or early forties.
What do you look at? Something COVID?
So, it's, John found her,
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it was from,
Wow.
but not good.
Yeah, I seen that on Facebook.
Hey, so, Happy New Year to you.
How are you, sir?
Welcome, everyone, to
our first meeting of the year. It's 2021. Hopefully everybody had a wonderful holiday season, safe, healthy. We are still in the midst of a pandemic. COVID is still very rapid. And again, I've got some personal concern with folks in my family with COVID, so it makes it very personal when you know people who are experiencing COVID. So please remain safe and healthy, and remind your family members and friends to do so as well. So with that, we'll start our agenda briefing. We've got a new addition to our team here, Mr. Wyatt. Welcome. I know it's been jumping right in and both feet and hands and everything else, and so appreciate your opportunity to partner with us in the town and help us continue to move forward. So I'd like to say welcome. Appreciate you being here and help to lead our town. So, thank you for that. I know we got a few things on the agenda. We'll get going here. First of all, council, I'll ask, is there any adjustments to the agenda briefing agenda?
Something, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add two things, sir. I'd like to add a closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A-5, acquisition of property. And also, to that, it's not the same, to another one, a motion to go into closed session for personnel, General Statute 143-318-11A6. Thank you, sir.
Motion by Mr. Now to add a closed session for acquisition of property and for personnel matter. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Motion is made, receive the second. Any question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, we'll add that to the agenda. I'll ask that at this time that I'll accept the motion to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a motion?
Make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is made to approve the agenda with the amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. Any question, comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll start right now with our agenda, and we'll add the closed session at the very end. At this time, I'll note that we have a couple items on here. First is to discuss the council vacancy that we received a notification from Mr. Bryant that he will be leaving the council, and we have a couple of candidates, I believe, on the list. So appreciate the invite for those individuals to come and speak to council, give some feedback on their reasons for wanting to jump into the fray. So with that, I will start with Ms. Harris, and maybe give us an introduction and allow council to ask the questions.
You want me to stand or, I mean, where do you, here?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
There, if you want to slide up and
Okay.
Come on,
Bring
come
my chair?
on, come on, up, come on up, Phyllis. You're welcome to stand, or I can get your chair, either one.
I can stand, that's fine. I do presentations all day, so here we are. I'm Felina Harris, for those of you who do not know me. I was born and raised here in Troutman, North Carolina. And I left for a few years, but I had to come back home for several reasons. And one of those reasons was that we wanted to raise our children here in the town of Troutman. And since I've been back, excuse me, I don't know why I'm so nervous, but since I've been back, I've been involved in a lot of activities in the town of Troutman, but not just in the town of Troutman, but in Ardo County as well. And I feel like if I get more involved with the town council, I'll be able to help my community even more. So that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to get involved. Another thing is I'm raising kids here, one of the things I just mentioned, and I want to make this town better for them, because they're our up and coming generation. So whatever I can do to make that better for them and any other parents like me who have a house, who own a home here or work here, whatever, I want to make things better for them as well. That's my reasoning for wanting to join the town council.
Great. Comments, questions from the council or Mr. Harris?
Would you prefer I say Ms. Harris or Felina?
Either one.
I'm gonna say Felina.
That sounds good to me.
If you don't mind. Felina, just to be sure, and I think I know the answer, but I still want to ask you. With your work schedule being in Charlotte, and Lord knows I know what you're going through, I was down there for 30-some years. You will be able to make the meetings and any call meetings. Obviously, we never know in the future. I mean, something may come up, and we've all had that happen to us. But on a just average, normal scale, so to speak, you'll be able to make the meetings, both agenda, the regular meetings, call meetings. Sometimes maybe some special circumstances that we may get together, maybe not as an entire body, but some of us, committee meetings or ad hoc committee meetings, things like that. You would be able to participate without conflict of your work schedule in Charlotte?
Well, of course, if I have like a major meeting, I'm in the middle of a meeting or something like that, it may be difficult. Currently, I work from home, so I don't even go to Charlotte at all right now.
Okay.
So, and that may be, I don't know when we're going back. Right now, we're told it's like April. So I'm at home, but I know this term is lasts until December. But I'm pretty flexible. If I need to make up time or whatever, I don't have to worry about that. If I need to get off and take a couple hours, I can take a couple hours or whatever. I've been there for 20 years, and it's never been a problem for me if I needed to get off or do things like that. I'm not an hourly employee or anything like that, so it should not be an issue for me to come to meetings.
Hi, Flynn.
Hi.
What do you feel would be your biggest asset that you could contribute to this council and the mayor going forward in a forward direction?
If I'm being transparent, I think that my biggest asset would be my skin color. And bringing some diversity to the council. I think that I can see and work with and deal with a different level, or excuse me, a different group of people that maybe hasn't been addressed before.
Thank you.
I guess I understand, I know you do a lot of volunteer work, you'll continue doing that, too, right? And this is not gonna take away from some, you do some important.
Nope, I'm quitting it all. I'm one that I take time and I evaluate what I'm doing and what I'm working on and what's taking most of my time. And if I see something that's not beneficial or it's not providing, if it's not benefiting me, I try to kind of chip those off. And if I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed, I can take some things and chip them off. But I will continue to serve my community and Ardo County.
I've got a list of questions. You've already tackled a few of those in your comments. I'd like to ask, this is now kind of at it a little bit, but part of my question is really around we kind of work as a team, as a council and as staff to deliver service to our community. And so for me, it is, as a team, what would you bring kind of to the team, to this council, in terms of your leadership style, how you work with people, that sort of thing?
I don't know how anyone else, personality is, but I have a big personality. I love people. I love working with people. I love working with upper management. People, I'm not going to say lower, but people that are not, in upper management. And to the team, I would bring that personality, to the team. So, and just to help all of us, I'm not saying that y'all need help, but if hopefully it'll be infectious and we're all, wanting to love on people and enjoy people and work with people.
I'm sorry, man, you had another one? Something popped in my mind while you were asking that. No, I was just going to ask, obviously we all like to be liked. And we all like to think that when we come on this council, we're going to do great things and people are going to love us.
I know where this is going.
And at the end of our terms, they're going to put us on the shoulder and hoist us, and take us out to dinner. And that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
You're going to please somebody over here, but you're going to make somebody over here upset.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it may be somebody you even know, somebody in your church, maybe a good friend or something. It's unfortunately happened. And I just wonder, situations like that, and sometimes you have to tell a constituent, I'm sorry, no. And being in your philanthropic endeavors, you do a lot of good and people love you for it, but this will be a position to where you can do a lot of good, period, but at the same time, it's going to be one where some people are going to find fault with you. And I just wondered if, you have thought about that, and, that's something that you can handle when the time comes, and I'm sure it will, but if it does come.
Welcome to my world. I do a lot of good, and yes, I'm patting myself on the back. I do a lot of good, and there have been a lot of times when I have put my heart and soul into something, and somebody just comes in and just tears it down. I'm used to it, and sometimes you can't take those things personally. Sometimes people just have a chip on their shoulder and wait for you to knock it off. So yes, I can handle criticism and naysayers. I'm sure I'll have some.
Yes, we will. Yeah, all of us do. Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? All right, I'm gonna ask one more.
Okay.
Thank you, that was kind of my follow-up, but that kind of got out there. What two ideas would you bring to the town of Troutman that would actually make this a better town for us to live, raise our kids, place to work, that sort of thing?
I'm glad you asked that question. So on Wednesday night, my son, I'm not gonna go to a big long story, my son, we think had an allergic reaction to something. So I was like, why don't we have some type of emergency place here in Troutman? So I had tried to go to Moore's, but they were closed. I tried to go to Statesville, they were closed. We ended up going to Iredale. I just wish there was some type of emergency center or something here in Troutman, so I wouldn't have had to, had it been worse, I would have had to call an ambulance for my son, but that's one, some type of emergency. Another, of course, is gonna center around my children, some basketball courts, because there are no, except for the schools, there's no basketball courts for the kids, so I love that.
They're coming.
Okay.
We'll get that
I'm
this
on
year.
track then.
Yes, sir.
Those are my two ideas.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? And you touched on this, I think, in your opening, in terms of your wanting to serve as a council member, and part of that being able to interact with the African American community. What do you, or how do you perceive organizing and bringing that to council to help implement something that would impact that community?
Rephrase that. You're saying, what do I want to bring?
Yeah.
Or how do I want to bring?
Yeah, how would you bring that?
Being that I've been active in the community, in the African American community in my town, what I would do is I would meet with as many as I can to see, how is the town of Troutman, what can we do better? What can the town do better? And I would take their ideas and thoughts and filter them out and then bring that to the town. I would do it that way.
Great. Great. Other questions or comments?
Mayor, may I ask a question? Only for information purposes, probably to both candidates. Y'all understand that this is for a term that ends at the end of this year. You decided you wanted to run for re-election. You file in July, I believe, and then obviously the election is in November. But
Yes.
make sure you understand it's pretty short.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. No other questions? Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Harris.
Thank you.
Who's our next candidate? Mr. Oxford. Welcome. Good to see you.
You're not the only one that's nervous. And you took all the good answers too, so.
You can leave then.
You'll get your opportunity. Please introduce yourself. See if there are any questions from council.
Yes, just thank you for having me. My name is Jerry Oxer. I've been a resident here of Troutman for a little over 5 years now. And while I wasn't privileged enough to be born here, I did choose Troutman as my home. The wife and I moved here, again, just a little over 5 years ago to put down roots. We live just down the road here in the barium seasons. And we have zero intentions of leaving. We absolutely love Iredell County. We love Troutman. We love the people. We love the community. I come from a political household. My father was on the town council for most of my youth, so I'm familiar with the ins and outs of friends one day, maybe not so much after the next council meeting. So I understand that comes with the territory. Honestly, I'm just excited to be here. I'm honored to even be considered, and I'd be glad to hear any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Oxford. Questions for council?
The question I'd ask is, I noticed that you were have business here in Troutman up until this past year, then you went to Mooresville.
Yes.
Is there a reason, is there an issue with
Yes,
Troutman?
yes. Difference in direction with other ownership. So we just found it best to just try and keep the peace, cut ties, and start again. We desperately wanted to keep our business here in Troutman, but just had a very difficult time. At that point in the economy, there was no commercial space to be had, so we ended up in Mooresville.
Jerry, what would you feel would be your biggest asset that you yourself could bring to this town council and the mayor?
It may sound peculiar, but I believe it's my training as a scientist. I've had it beat into my head for the past 20 years that emotion has to be removed from your decision making. The facts are the facts, and what's best is what's best, and you have to follow it whether you like it or not. I think especially in this day and age, too many times emotions enter too much into the political arena, and being able to make a conscious, wise decision on what's best for the community is what's most important, and not necessarily what I wish to impress upon the city council. So,
Thank you.
I'll ask the same questions that I did of Ms. Harris. Obviously, you're the owner of your business, so I presume it won't be too difficult for you to get away, but at the same time, sometimes if you're a small business person, it is difficult to get away. So you would be available to take part not only in meetings, but committee meetings, other sometimes special situations that may take place in the evening even, or during the day. You would be able to do that without conflict?
absolutely. I have the best business partner anyone could have, my wife Fiona. She does most of the heavy lifting anyway, so she'd be glad to probably get me out of her hair for a little while. So that would be no issue at all.
Any questions?
No, you have some questions?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, no, I just have a comment.
okay. Mr. Oxford, again, very same questions I asked Ms. Harris. Again, we operate as a team. What would you bring, to the team atmosphere to make Troutman a better place?
Again, I would allude back to, my training. I think that would really help me with the learning curve, being as a newcomer, especially in such a short term. Don't have a lot of grace to, a lot of time to get up to speed with things. I think that could greatly help me. But also my youth. I think that's something that is also greatly lacking in local politics, if not even at the higher levels. I am older than I look. I am turning 40 this year, but I guess the blonde hair has done me some favors, so it hides the gray pretty well. But I know that's definitely something in my lifetime that I've seen, is that politics is viewed as an elder's game, and while there is experience and knowledge, that comes with age, that can't be replaced. I do think it's good to have, a little bit of youth, something that maybe some of all of the influx of new, new residents that we're going to have, maybe give them something that they could possibly relate to, and maybe make it easier, more approachable, to come to council meetings, reach out to us, so on and so forth.
In terms of really other ideas that you might bring that might make the town better, what are some of those ideas you could bring?
Can I say that she stole my answers? That was good. Honestly, I'd never considered a clinic with a young one myself. That's a brilliant idea. The first thing off the top of my head, while it may seem superficial, it's something that as a youngster that my town underwent, that did a great deal to help solidify the identity of the community, was a downtown revitalization project. And I know you're probably rolling your eyes hearing about revitalization of downtown. That's been on your plate for a while now. But it was very similar. We had a train depot that had kind of just, not necessarily gone into ruin, but just had been neglected. And there was, my father actually spearheaded the project. I was able to secure a lot of funds through state and higher up, so the taxpayers didn't have to bear the burden. And it just really created a beautiful place, in the downtown area. And I don't think we have too far to go. We already have a great area right there. I'd hate to see it fall victim to the widening of 21, but that's one thing. And again, the parks, the basketball courts in particular. I think we have a wonderful park, but just as a citizen, I don't feel invited. I know it's open all the time, but I just think, granted, 2020, it is what it is with the pandemic, and the restrictions that we have as far as social distancing. But the few times that I've been down there, it has been just an amazing time. And I think that's something that we could really use to help bring our community together. I've met tons of people that I never would have met otherwise. And, but yeah, I think it's, again, two relatively somewhat easy fixes there that could really go far for generations to come.
Something popped into my head. I apologize, Mayor. In the past, you've probably heard this either by word of mouth or through the newsprint, or media rather, well, newsprint too. Sometimes there's a conflict among citizens as to where our priorities are concerning growth in terms of residential versus industry. Small business, I don't think is a big problem, but sometimes you got to have some large business as well. Case in point, right out here on Murdoch Road with the million square feet warehouse, as well as Coastal Inn and so forth. And we designate that area out there for larger businesses. And there had been some conflict concerning that. And I would just kind of wonder how you would respond to someone that came up and said, I want to see this town stay small, I want it to be all residential, maybe a few small businesses, no growth towards business, et cetera, et cetera. How would you respond? What is your feeling in that regard as far as the future of the town is concerned? fact.
There's no easy answer there. But in matters such as that, when you're looking at the, you know, the direction of the town as a whole, then the whole must be considered. You know, just like you said, just like politics in general, you're not going to please everybody. So the decisions have to be made, and it's not so much just a decision, and here it is. As a councilman, if that is how it plays out, not only should I be able to explain the decision, but explain why we made that decision and what makes that decision the correct decision for everyone. Not so much handing down, no, it's just the way it is, we voted, you weren't there. You know, that's not the correct way to go about it. It's, if we can't explain to the town why we choose to do what we do, then maybe we need to question why we're doing what we're doing. I think that's really it. Yeah.
Other questions? Comments?
Do you have any more
No,
questions?
no, I'm good.
Okay, I would just like to say thank you to you both for taking an interest in wanting to serve your town. This opportunity would be good, whoever is chosen. That way you get a few months' experience and decide if you want to join in and become somewhat permanent on a 4-year basis. And whoever is chosen, I want to congratulate you now, and then challenge the person that is not the one appointed for council to still stay involved with the town. We have advisory committees that we have vacancies on, and please feel free to fill out an application and join us that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
I would like to try to thank you. I want to piggyback on what you said very, very well. Obviously, there's going to be a winner, and there's going to be someone who doesn't win. And you'll notice I didn't say loser. Someone who doesn't win. That doesn't mean you're a loser. And as Sally said, and I agree with it 300%, both of you are very capable, very impressive. I think either one of you would do a great job and be an asset to this town, whether it's on the council or on a committee, advisory committee, helping in the recreational area. And most of us have come along that way. We started off in that regard and worked our way up. And I would ask that you do that. You know, we have an election, as the town attorney mentioned, coming up. You can certainly keep that in mind for the one who doesn't win. But the important thing is, as Sally said, do not take this as a negative whatsoever, who does not win. Please stay involved. And their openings are coming up again in July. 2 years from now, will be another election and so forth, as well as the advisory committees and all the other things we've got going on that we need volunteers for in between. So please, you know, again, as Sally says, stay involved.
Thank you.
So that was my closing remarks. So that they make my job easier. Again, I appreciate both of you taking the time and consideration. I know it's both for family members. It's probably a little nerve-wracking to get through the holidays, but clearly one of the things that, at least for me, when I joined council, was to try to get other people involved. So it's great to have two citizens of our town willing to step up and throw their name in the hat. So again, appreciate that. And there's still, as Ms. Williams said, a lot of opportunity for folks to engage with the town. So we look forward to whatever that might look like going forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, council, you've heard from both candidates. I think one of the things that we need to consider is, do you want to make a decision on that tonight, or do you want to wait until Thursday? Given that opportunity, maybe get up to speed on Thursday at the council meeting. You would have to start the first part of the year. Mr. Wyatt has a comment or thoughts on that as well.
For simplicity's sakes, if you all would make a motion tonight, if you all are prepared to make a motion on what your choice is, not trying to rush you or push council, but if you all make a motion tonight on what your choice is, that would give us time to have someone here for Thursday so that your choice could be sworn in prior to the meeting starting, or once you open the meeting up Thursday night, we could have them sworn in and they could join you for your business session Thursday night, if that is your pleasure.
I assume there's probably a little bit of an orientation, you all would handle that orientation as well.
Yes, sir. We would be most happy to help with that.
I think you were shaking your head, yes, I would like to go ahead and make the decision tonight. And as the town manager suggested, then they can be sworn in first of the meeting and hit the ground running, so to speak, at our Thursday night's meeting.
All right. If that's the case, I'll entertain a motion based on our chief candidate.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Felina Harris to fill the unexpired term of Councilman Bryant.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor to extend an invitation to Ms. Harris to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Bryant, which expires December 31, 2021. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is made, received a second. Any question or comment? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Motion passes. Ms. Harris, welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. White will get in touch with you about the details. Hopefully you can make it on Thursday night for the swearing in. We'll talk a little bit about that as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Osher, again, thank you so much for putting your name in the hat. Look forward to seeing you at, again, continued events. I know you all have been involved with events with the town, continue to see that, and I think there's most of what you know about the town and its growth is we're on that path, and we still want to continue that. And you have a role in that as a citizen of our town. You know, who knows? Election time is starting in July, so we'll see how that goes. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment. Would you mind that if she came up here so we could see her face on camera, just so the people at home could see who she is?
Let me take the mask off.
If you just step up there between Duck and them.
You want me to step up or slide up or?
No, if you just step up there and just kind of just wave at the camera, just so they know who you
Where are
are.
they? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. That moves us into our next item of business, which is a couple of staff items we need to address. And so this time I'll start with Mr. Wyatt.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Steve?
Oh, okay. Just go to the revenue update. It's tucked away between a couple of green sheets, but you have your monthly update. I will point out that we have received all of our COVID funds from the county. I'm going to lower this so maybe be a little more understandable. The county was gracious enough to help us find a way to make sure we received all the funds that we were allotted, and so we have received 100% of the $67,300 $365 that we were allotted.
Steve, just real quick, do you perceive, this can be a little question, perceive other funding coming in terms of COVID?
I do not foresee any, unless there's a change by the, I guess, the state legislature, or some more funds are allotted, but so far, there's been none specified for local governments that I'm aware of. I keep trying to find ways to make this sheet a little more user-friendly. So if you'll notice, I've put in bold the new additions, being the December receipts, so they stand out a little bit more. And if you have other suggestions of making this more helpful for you, then I'm certainly open. Our sales tax receipts were up above last year's, about almost $6,000. Our December property tax was up about almost, well, over 200,000 up. And I caution you, that may just be a matter of timing and when people are paying, but it certainly helped our cash flow and appears to be to indicate that people have the money on hand to pay it. And it may be also, you know, an indication that we are receiving more overall because of growth, but again, that bear out in the long run, whether it's just a matter of timing. Our utility sales tax, we got a quarter's worth of that, and it is just up slightly, about $500 over last year. But again, I take that as a good sign that it's not down, you know. Our water and sewer billing was down about $3,000, but it was well up last month, so it may just be a matter of timing in the days that the meters were read and so forth. So that pretty much covers it, unless you have questions.
Question?
Yes, sir.
On the SRO funding, how much? Sorry, I mean, we're up.
That I expect that to be all that we get this year. It is up over last year's because they fully funded Officer Baker's salary this year, or their 10 months of it, as opposed to 50% that we got last year, as well as some slight increases in salaries and insurance and so forth. So I don't expect any more to come in during the year. That's usually paid on an annual basis, and we get a one-time payment.
And to further explain a little bit on that 50% thing, I don't know where that ever became an issue, but as I clearly pointed out to the school board chairman last year at the winter retreat, prior to the winter retreat, and also in discussions with Steve and staff, and asked that the school board go back and pull the tape that was discussed when that position was created. There was some misunderstanding on their financial staff people apparently, and former staff here. That position was never supposed to be 50% funded. It was supposed to be 100% funded from day one. The terminology of 50% funded was there was a school security guard that succumbed to injury on the job. That position was a line item that when we got funding for the SRO position for the town was 50% of that position that was funded. But it was supposed to be 100% funded of the then police chief and the budget from that date forward. But for whatever reason, that was never properly relayed and properly reimbursed from that day forward. But out of discussions last year, that was pointed out, and when the tapes was requested to be reimbursed to verify that, then all of a sudden, that's when the school board chairman told us, absolutely, send us the bills and you will be reimbursed, which according to Steve was no problem this time once he sent in the bill that it was not questioned.
Can I ask with Paul Bryant no longer being with us, and he and Eddie kind of having a two-person committee, I'll say two-person, you know, the chief I think was a part of it, so forth, maybe some others on staff, concerning trying to determine the true cost of our SROs, and you know, approaching both county commissioners and board members, Board of Education members, about perhaps getting more, so that it reflects more of the true cost, so that the town is not unfairly, you know, paying out more than we should when we're talking about students not only from town, but many from outside of town.
Yes, sir.
So what I'm asking is, with Paul gone, I would hope that committee continues, and ask the town manager and Steve, I think Steve was on there too, and the chief, but if you would please, to keep that going, so that, because I think Mr. Bryant was on the right path in determining that, you know, what we're paying is fair and just, and reflects our responsibility. You know, and I'm not trying to say that because a child lives outside of town, we don't want to take care of his or her safety. I just want a little bit more equity and fairness in the town's monetary responsibility versus the Board of Education, or even the county, you know, the commissioner's responsibility. So I would like to see that continue and not falter, since Paul is no longer with us, that continue on, and because I know one of the last conversations I had with him, he had planned, along with Eddie and so forth, to approach both commissioners and Board of Education, and hopefully have something to report back on by our winter retreat, if not something that could be included in our budget discussions of late spring, you know, April, May, and so forth. That may be, you know, with all that's involved, that may be asking a little bit much, maybe one of those things that unfortunately rolls over to the next, or it may be something that we can take in incremental steps, a little bit more next year and a little bit more the year after, in trying to reach this agreed to equitable funding of the SROs in this area.
We will continue trying to do that, sir. I was on a radio program Friday for law enforcement appreciation with several chiefs and county commissioners and other officials trying to discuss, and one of the questions that was asked was what funding model we were trying to accomplish. And I pointed out part of what you just addressed was the fact that Statesville City had 6 SROs for their population as compared to the town of Troutman and our population, and we have 4 SROs. That, as you appropriately stated, and as former council person Paul Bryant said, fair and equitable. What does that weigh out on a scale? And as we have all said previously, town of Troutman's population doubles when school system is in session because of all the employees and all the students that then influx into the town of Troutman, and that is not a fair burden to the taxpayer in the town of Troutman. So absolutely we will continue those, and to point out, as we have also said, the Troutman police officers are the only SROs throughout the entire county that are directing traffic and using Troutman police vehicles when they are directing traffic at the high school and at the elementary and middle school, and using gas when they're doing so. That is not on this reimbursement line. That was not submitted as a bill reimbursement, and none of these other agencies are submitting a reimbursement line item there. So there is still work to be done, and we will absolutely be dutiful as we proceed forward in trying to get that fair and equal reimbursement.
If I may leave that in your capable hands to coordinate with Mr. Now and Steve and whomever else you see fit to include in the discussions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I my understanding, we made a decision as council to inform the school board, I don't know if that letter went out, that we wanted to renegotiate that agreement. And I don't know if you've seen that yet or not, but that should have,
No, sir, I had not.
okay.
That could
I
have
had to-
fallen between the cracks and between Mr. Grusback leaving us and Mr. White coming in.
I don't think it did. I think he sent a letter.
Oh,
I think I recall an email from Brian saying that he sent that letter.
Like the
Yeah,
day-
he wasn't called up, said he didn't get reviewed before it went.
Yeah.
I think that's what the comments are there that night.
Right, right. Because that was a note I had we received any response from the school board or the superintendent about that letter?
Yeah, the letter went out, I think Brian might have sent it like.
I'll check my
maybe
emails.
his last day or something like that, so, I think it's a follow-up conversation, to be had with the school board on that.
I will absolutely follow up and see who the letter was sent to, if it was Dr. James or to Martin Page, Chair of the school board, and we will go from there and try to follow up on that.
Next item is, the South Idaho Greenway.
Before we go, remember in the December meeting, there was discussion, you asked me to look into it. So after we went through the contracts, at least the ones I have, I called them and, the council needs to make some decisions, but, the good news is it doesn't look like 50,000 is coming out of the town's coffers. Said it will still come from the state, but I thought best just to have Todd and Benji go through it all with you.
Yeah, I think that, I'm not 100% sure on all the information you guys had in your packet, but there was an email that had an outline of each of the line items that the DOT was not going to participate, but in only 50% of the cost. They were broken out into 3 different categories. You had the contractor for just under 30,000, and then yeah, that's it. That's the, yep. Okay. You got the contractor. This is for 2 line items for asphalt paving. And then we had the Kessel, which was the testing firm that the town had hired to do different tests required by the DOT, and there's 4 line items there. And then the last section, I put it as West Consultant / contractor, and dug into that a little bit more to get some more information on those line items based on our inspections and diaries and information that we had on that. So there's also probably, this information came from discrepancies list that we received from the DOT. Yes. All right, this should be the last page, so it'll be just a table. And this is what we received from the DOT and their materials and testing review of the project. That's basically where I got those numbers and put it in the email, was from that list. And if you want to look at that list, we can go through each of those line items if you want. So basically, the first line is item number 11, and then the last one, line item, it's SA 2.1. All right, those are for the asphalt paving. And what the DOT requires for asphalt paving is 2 sets of core tests to be done with the asphalt. One is done by the contractor or a firm that they have hired, and then the other was done by Kessel, which is whom the town hired. It's quality control testing by the contractor, quality assurance testing by the town's testing firm. All right, the town's testing firm did their quality assurance testing. The contractor failed to do the quality control testing, and that's what the DOT is choosing to not participate in only 50% of those 2 items. Any questions about that one? Okay, and I don't have to go through all this if y'all don't need me to, but the other ones would be for the concrete items. You got item 20, which is on there twice. You got 2 line items for item 20, item 21, and then item SA 1.3. All right. The first line of item 20 it says insufficient testing. We did not get an explanation for that. So that may need a little follow-up with the DOT to get clarification on that. The second line item, number 20, for 2 foot 6 inch curb and gutter, that was, and the remaining other 3 concrete items are testing laboratory not certified. What the DOT has told us is that Kessel's lab, which was used in Mooresville lab was used, did not have NCDOT certification for that lab. The person collecting the concrete, making the cylinders and doing the testing on site was certified with the DOT, but the labs that the cylinders were sent to in Mooresville was not. Kessel's lab in Asheville is certified. I've talked to Kessel some today, and they're wanting to reach out to the DOT to look at an alternate type of test for the concrete. So we'll see how that goes, but shouldn't really have to play a bearing on y'all's decision today. That's something we'll take up with the DOT, regardless of what you guys, which way you guys choose to go. But that's the issue with those items. All right, the remaining items is 37 and SA 1.1. It's a wattle and a 12-inch drainage pipe. And looking back at our diaries, inspection reports, the wattles, all right, they were shipped to the job site prior to our inspector being here. We didn't know they had started work. The contractor was supposed to let us know, but we did not get notification from them that they were starting. And I think several days after they had started, I think maybe a week, Erica gave us a call and said, hey, did y'all know they started working? We're like, no, we haven't heard from them. But of course, if y'all remember, they were, what, 6 or 8 months late getting started? And so we missed when that material was shipped to the site. The DOT requires the town inspector be there when material arrives on the job. Check certification and to log it in that material was actually received on the job site and it's approved material. So we were not here for that. And we could not put a date on that materials received report. We made the report, our inspector made the report, but he didn't date it because he didn't know exactly what day it arrived. So the DOT said, we're not participating in that. It's an invalid test or materials received report because it doesn't have a date. It's invalid. So that's what happened with the wattles. The storm drain pipe was received, certification was done, but we did not have a manufacturer's date on the pipe. We requested it from the contractor. They couldn't provide it. So they're kicking that out because the date it was manufactured could not be obtained. So we could not get that from the contractor or the supplier for whatever reason. We don't know. They didn't give us a reason. They just said we can't provide it. So that's a rundown of all the line items. Are there any questions about any of the line items?
What is a wattle?
It's an erosion control device. It's a straw log that you would
Okay.
kind of put in to
Gotcha.
keep,
Yeah.
kind of works like
I
silk
know what you're
fence.
talking about. Yeah, I know, it's called a wattle.
That's it, yeah.
Well, I don't have a question, but from what I've heard so far, and of course, reading this beforehand, before I got here, it sounds to me like the contractor, which is responsible for the third party in the case of the testing and so forth, as well as informing you guys when things are being shipped, or adhering to specifications such as dates being stamped on pipe. It sounds to me like either directly or indirectly, the contractor has just screwed up. That's my feeling so far.
I will say,
I don't know what else to say,
Yeah.
as far as sending something to a lab, just because, the brother lab up in Nashville, that doesn't mean you assume remorseful.
Right.
Somebody should have double checked that. And again, I presume that should have fallen on the contractor. You correct me if I'm wrong, but
Right.
I'm presuming.
the concrete was done by the town's testing firm. That was an error on their part. And like I say, I've talked to them today about that, and they admit the error. And want to contact the DOT and reach out to them to see if they can do an alternate, non-destructive type test on the curb to show that it passed. All the cylinder breaks and stuff, the concrete, for all the concrete items, the contract called for 2,500 PSI concrete. There was only one test that was slightly under 3,000 PSI. Most of them were 4,000. One of them was even over 5,000 is what the concrete tested at. So the concrete was good, it's just they didn't have DOT certification to do the test at that lab.
Okay, and whose responsibility
Yeah,
was
that
that to
is
make sure they
Kessel.
did have certification?
Kessel.
Kessel.
Who
Who hired Kessel?
The town.
So the town, did Kessel represent themselves as being DOT certified, or
Yes,
when they were hired?
yes,
Well, it
And
sounds to
they-
me like Kessel then has the problem.
yes. Right. Like I say, they said it's a Mooresville lab. It should have gone to the DOT certified lab in Asheville, but it didn't. Everything else they were certified for and had certifications. Like I say, the staff on site and everything they did was, they were all certified. It's just they sent it to the Mooresville lab that was not certified with DOT.
And this, again, to be perfectly clear, Kessel should not have done that. They should have
Right.
sent it to their lab in Asheville.
Correct.
Okay? The asphalt part of it,
Yes,
there again, there was a testing thing. It should have been incumbent on the contractor.
yes,
Make sure testing was done properly.
that's correct.
Okay, so far. Okay,
Yep,
I'm trying to keep a scorecard going here.
that's right.
Scorecard.
There's a lot to process.
I will say, Todd said something to me about this, and I don't know any detail about this. I think some of this testing too was a moving target by DOT. You know what you said?
It was confusing. We did get, in several aspects of this project, we got multiple answers and direction from the DOT, different guidance, information from different folks. So that was, I don't know how directly we could apply to this without anything in writing or anything like that, but there was definitely some confusion from the beginning, before we even started designing and developing the plans. It was somewhat difficult.
Well, has Doc answered those comments that you guys had a moving target going here? We're doing the best we can?
Well,
Maybe effectively the factor of cutting it 50% of what they're gonna reimburse, I don't know. But do they have an answer to that?
Well, they did clear it up, for the most part, they cleared it up during the meetings we had before the construction started, as far as the testing goes. I'm just trying to think if there were, I'm trying to remember for sure if there was anything that was still outstanding that had not been answered prior to the contractor starting work. But I did look back at some of the meeting minutes, and Kessel may not have been at one, they definitely were not at one of the meetings, and they may have missed it. And but I don't think that had any bearing on anything that they did. It's just hard to say, I can't remember, it seems like most of it got cleared up, best I
You may
remember.
want to point out that the fact that the curb and gutter had to be tested at all, that's kind of in question.
That was part of it, whether it had to be tested at all.
Since they did test it anyway,
Yeah.
obviously the lab should have been DOT certified.
That's
But
correct.
kind of in their defense, they're like, well, we're going above and beyond what would normally be required for a greenway.
And they did, based on the information we have, they only had to test one load of concrete and make cylinders. But they tested every day concrete was delivered, so they did test way more than they were required to. But still, the DOT wasn't gonna accept it.
Not to an accredited lab.
That's correct. Or a DOT,
Right.
DOT lab. It's okay for everything else.
Right.
And
Well-
according to Kessel, they've used that lab to do testing for the DOT, and it's never been an issue. So,
Odd. Well, I
but
appreciate.
that's what they say, that's hearsay,
What
I
you
guess.
said in your email, that, the town doesn't have to pay anything. But my question, and you can't answer this, and I don't know if anybody can answer this, but the emails go back to the latter part of July,
Mhm.
asking the DOT wanting to close this out, and why this wasn't, discovered earlier.
Yeah, I can't remember when we received, that list that we just went through, I can't remember when we received it from the DOT. We've had it for a while. And, we've been trying to communicate with the DOT about, their issues with this stuff, and they weren't willing to budge on it.
Right.
But I would have to look, I can't remember the exact date we received this, but it's been a while now. Keep in mind, this contract wrapped up, if I'm not mistaken, in 2017, 18. All right, the job was accepted in June 20th of 2018. All right, we've been waiting a little over a year to get information from the contractor. This list was more extensive than this, and we were able to get a lot of it taken off with information we got from the contractor that wasn't provided during the job. But the other part, we probably spent a little over a year waiting on the contractor to spend his weather days to try to minimize his liquidated damages. So it's been drug out for a very long time. His late start date took longer than expected, and then this wrap-up process, here we are sitting in it for 2 years, or close to it.
So basically, the $50,000, okay, that we're disputing,
Yes.
with these adjustments, what's the bottom line, what we're looking at possibly
Okay.
absorbing?
All right, so you guys have the pay application that's right after the emails? And maybe hard to read, it says contract pay application number 2. And it's got some text in red in the bottom left. All right.
Okay.
All right, if you see the red numbers on the right, it's got $128,397 and change. All right, that's after applying the liquidated damages. Everybody
Where's
fine?
128 again, if I'm looking at the right page?
All right, it's right here. It's the, right here on the right-hand side.
Yeah, like you see at the top of mine. No, go down, just, no.
So,
Kind of where your finger was.
Oh, okay.
all right, that's, we got what, 128,000. All right, that would be the price, barring that the town doesn't hold anybody liable for any of that 50,000, and the town chooses to pay it. This is what it would be after liquidated damages. So if you say that, all right, the contractor messed up on that, Kessel messed up, whoever, we're not gonna participate in that 50,000, then you would take whatever you would apply to the contractor, you would minus it off that 128,000. So it would go down from there. That is the most the town would pay. Now, this is the contractor's final pay application, and I mean, this has been on the table for, 2 years.
Has it
Well,
been paid?
Well, actually, yes,
It
it's
has.
been paid, yes.
Well, that's right, yeah. I
Yeah.
think last week,
It's been about three or 4 weeks.
okay.
how
Well,
would
it's
we-
actually, it was before, the last meeting, so.
So, can't hold anything back, we already paid them.
Well, we'll have to try to get back from them. Yeah,
Well's not real great,
yeah.
being honest.
The 128 or 136?
We paid the one.
It would be the 128 would be the most the town would pay. Was the whole 128 paid?
I believe so. I'd have to go
Okay.
back and look.
So at that point, we would contact the contractor and ask for whatever amount back.
Yeah.
The $29,576 and change,
Yeah, if that's what y'all choose,
that's
yes.
what, okay.
Yep. I mean, I didn't know if, depending on which way you want to go with any of the others, yeah.
I mean, that 1,540 at the bottom, cost of West Consultants, that contractor, I guess, maybe, as soon as we knew that they delivered those products without a date,
Yeah.
submittal or whatever, we maybe should have rejected it and said, you gotta get it off the site and replace it or something. We could have been real forceful like that, but these, after all, these are pretty minor items. But I mean, I'd be willing for us to put that in, just to take that one off the list. We'll take care of that, 1,500.
What about the 19,000 from Kessler?
Yeah, that'd be the hard one. That's why Kessel's gonna try their best to get DOT to pay for it. If they do some additional testing, even now, showing that the concrete, even, I guess, I'm not sure how they're gonna approach it. Maybe they're gonna, use a certified lab, and they could probably just take out a small core.
Well, that would be the destroy, they're hoping to avoid that. They've got like a Swiss hammer test and something else that they can do that's been accepted and approved by the DOT, other methods that would be non-destructive, and you wouldn't notice that the test had been done to the concrete. I'm not 100% sure exactly how those tests are done, but
Let me ask this, if they didn't pay,
as far as, I would say
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, yes,
I would say
years
so.
ago.
That was
I
contracted
mean, it's been-
between the town
so we
and,
got no leverage. You people tell us to go fly site,
it's possible, yeah,
I'll take the course.
yeah.
Has application been made to the state for
No.
reimbursement?
No.
Well, part of that will be determine how much the state reimburses. Before you really know what your damage is.
Right.
So if the state reimburses them for this full amount, then he would be going back to them for that amount. Whether they would.
If the state reimburses off of the full amount,
Then
then
they
there
pay
wouldn't
for
be
it
any
all.
damage.
Yeah, then they pay for all of it.
But if they don't reimburse you for all of it, then you'd have to look at potential claims.
Are they gonna reimburse us, or are they gonna reimburse us?
Us.
They
We,
reimburse the town.
yeah.
The town pays, and then the state reimburses the town.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just say the state reimburses the 100,000, then we're good. That would be great. But if they only it reimburses us 50,000, then that's where we go to the other,
Other parties, yeah.
right, okay.
Yep, I'm a little disappointed in what I see here from a manager's perspective. If we're hiring you all to oversee a project and then things start showing up that's not supposed to be, that's the first red flag that's supposed to be there. And then we've got people that you all are saying that we hired. Well, if we hired them, what did we hire you all to do? And then if you all are supposed to be overseeing the project, why are we coming in back in on the backside and supposed to be figuring out who didn't do their job? So we need that clarified for council's part. And I'm not trying to be direct, but I am being direct. That's what you were hired to do. So if we're hiring people after we hired you, we've got to correct that going forward on projects. If we're going out hiring people that's not hiring people, that's not gonna work in a relationship going forward on projects. Because as the manager, if you all are gonna oversee a project, I would assume you're gonna hire the contractors and the subcontractors, and they're gonna be responsible to the contractors that you're gonna hire. So if they get an improper testing that's done, then we've got to have checks and balances of who's gonna be responsible so that we don't have these scenarios going forward.
Correct.
But right now, we're writing checks and paying for a project that's completed that obviously something fell through the cracks. So to me, this is situations of dilemmas that we can't have. And I'm kind of perplexed as to how we got here, how we had a project on the table for 2 years that we're finding out now that there was items delivered clearly outside of the scope of the job that was supposed to be done, and there was no repercussions for it. And we wrote checks and said, thank you for a job that was well done, when clearly it wasn't.
Right.
No, we did advise withholding this $128,000 until it's cleared up.
So y'all told somebody here don't to send that check, and it was sent anyway?
Recommendation.
I'm
Yeah,
disappointed in that.
Now the testing for the asphalt, that was the contractor's responsibility. I mean, yeah, we're overseeing the project. They were aware of the requirement, that was discussed, they didn't do it. The Kessel was, like I say, hired by the town, we weren't overseeing them. They were aware of the requirements, and they admit fault for not sending it to the correct lab. We did contact them, make sure they were there when need be, and everything was done correctly except that one mistake. And like Benji said, the wattles, I guess we should have, when we got here, we should have rejected it and made them send it back, reship it. That way we could get the date, the correct date received, and put a date on that report.
And
That's
that's the
correct,
part,
yes.
Todd, we've talked before, but to give Gary some teeth to advise us and going forward, and we've talked before on a couple minor things. But to protect the town, this is where we got to do things better going forward. And that if, whichever staff, if you all make a recommendation that's that sincere so that Gary can do his part, we got to do better than that. And if somebody is delivering goods and it shouldn't be, and that's the minor part out of this whole project, I don't think that was but $2,500.
Yeah.
But $2,500 is $2,500, but still, that lets us know that we've got to do a better job, and or you all, on a project so that we can, but I right now as a manager, I don't know where to tell Gary if it's even his part to go after these to try to get us our money back. But we're all responsible to the taxpayers right now, and this thing is a fiasco. And I still want to find out if y'all told us don't write a check for $100 and some thousand, why we wrote it.
Right.
Was the pay application not approved? Was
No,
it
I
not
never signed it and sent it.
Do what?
I never signed it and sent it.
How'd I get it?
We sent it as a copy so you'd have the liquidated damages and that amount and that information. But,
I think the first step is to commit to apply to the state and get that reimbursement and see how much that is.
yeah,
And I think on the Kessel portion, I think there's a good chance, according to what Kessel's saying, that on previous projects they've done, that maybe we can get them to go along with approving that.
yeah.
All right, so I'll back into this. The Kessel piece, they're gonna be working through their part, and we're gonna work with them to see if they get approval by the state, which would then allow us to get the reimbursement of that $19,000. Is that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
It's definitely worth a try.
Yeah,
And, Country Boy might wanna try to do the same with their part.
So on the Country Boy piece, from a contractor perspective, we've already paid them. The work is done. But they're, at this point, we have no commitment that they're going to be working with the state to try to get reimbursement.
correct, yeah, like I say, we had asked the state about coming back and doing the core test on the asphalt, and they
But
denied.
right now, we don't have a commitment on that,
Right,
29,500.
right.
And on the, I guess, latter part, the 1,500, you all said you would.
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
Handle that. So right now, it looks like, at least at this point, the decision that council can make is on the 29,000. Allow you all to work with council to see how much of that we can get reimbursed.
Or it could be conditional, but you could
Yeah.
add the 19 in unless Kessel's able to get that reversed.
That's right.
Well, I agree with Gary that I guess the first step we need to do really is to see how much the state is going to reimburse us.
According to Mr. Carpenter, that they're gonna reimburse you all of it minus this 50,000,
Right.
That's right.
is our understanding.
Yeah.
But if, okay,
Maybe he didn't have the final say, but so as far as we know, he does.
So we're not seeing additional, now we gotta pay out another 50,000, so whether we get to 55 or not. Just what I'm-
That's correct. Yeah.
So, yeah, there's really no action for us to take at this point.
I think they need action, my understanding, as to whether you want to reduce the pay application by 50%, right?
That was
Yeah,
the
how
original
much do we
question.
need to reduce the pay application by?
None or 50%.
Or $50,000.
Yeah.
That was the original
But-
question, is if the 128,000 should be deducted.
But if the
Should
pay
be reduced.
application has already been processed and complete,
Right.
You
But-
mean the
but
pay
it's-
application to the state or what?
Well, I took it as
So
from
I
the
know that
Reimbursement.
we knew that,
What's that?
that the pay application had been done,
Well, I
sent to
mean,
the state.
No, that's not been done.
yeah, we
We've not
still haven't
requested
signed
it.
it.
It hasn't been done, it's not been sent to the state. I don't want to cloudy the water. But that's not been done, it's not been sent to the state.
Not yet. I mean, they've paid the contractor, but I guess
Town's paid.
town has to pay, has paid the contractor, you have to wait on the check, cleared check to come back. Then we would send the pay application and stuff to the state and to ask for the reimbursement.
He sent it 2 weeks ago, I guarantee you it's cleared.
Probably so, yeah.
What do you need from them?
Well, as far as, well,
Probably
what we
nothing.
were,
I mean,
what we were looking for before, it was paid was how much to mark off on the pay application is what we were looking for. So that was kind of what was driving this meeting.
I guess at this point, the question is, particularly the 29,576, that we're saying our opinion, that's Country Boy's responsibility, the contractor. Do you want to go ahead and formally request that, since they've already been paid, just formally
Right.
request it back?
I don't see a downside to us requesting it back. I'm like Ms. Avon, I don't leverage to that one.
Only reason not to is if DOT actually would reimburse it, but
Right.
we have no reason to think they will.
Right.
Well, we do have other, contracts with them. They're our snow removal contractor, and we've used them on other things, so, to keep in good standing with us.
That our street sweeper, isn't that through them too?
No, that's McCoy's.
Oh, okay.
But we do other work with Country Boys, so, to stay in good standing. There may be some give and take there.
So the option on that is, I think there's a recommendation here to ask for, item one, ask for full forgiveness of the 29,000. Option two is to, forgive 50% of it. And option three is ask for the entire amount back.
Benji?
Yes, sir.
I don't need the exact date, but like a time period, okay? when did you guys, West Consultants, notify us not to pay this bill, approximately?
Probably been 2 years. and-
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, the bill, I mean, you did get.
I mean, when we first got it, we didn't approve it. Because we knew the contractor had not provided information, so we went through a process of requesting the certifications, dates, products, and all that stuff from the contractor. That took 6 months or better
Right.
to get that from them.
No,
And,
so the process would have been, you guys would have notified our town manager,
yes,
which would have then notified Steve. Right.
I'm not even sure if he
I'm
had it
just
at
trying
that
to, I'm
point.
not
Right.
looking a finger to blame,
Oh, no, no,
but I'm
no.
looking to see if our town manager dropped the ball.
No, I do not think so.
But you guys notified him not to pay the bill.
That's
But
correct.
then it was still paid.
I'm not sure who said what on that, but yeah.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay.
No,
There was something in this that, we're coming up on a deadline, for this pay application to be done to the state.
And
We're
reimbursement
gonna-
to be requested, yes.
Or to say it's all on you, we're out of it.
Yes,
So I don't wanna get to the point to where we compound for the situation we're already in.
that's right.
But at the same time, I wanna get back money that's owed to us.
And if I remember correctly, I requested that date from the DOT, and I think it is, I can't remember, it's sometime in the middle of the year this year, that this reimbursement has to be requested. Does that sound right, Steve? I think he was included in that, but I can't remember the exact date, and it may be in the packet if we dig through it. I'm not sure how important that is, but we've got a few months to get this done, as far as requesting the reimbursement from the state.
Again, whatever happens with, whether we go to court or they comply or we take it out of future, contracts, I just wanna make sure that we get back what we're owed and that we don't compound the problem by missing the, pay application date with the state.
That's right, for sure.
So, all right, I think I understand, so, we can send the pay application, into the state sooner than, say, the summer or whenever the due date is.
Yeah, you can send it as soon as the check clears. And I mean, all this other stuff, requesting the money back from the contractor, and the only thing that would be outstanding would be trying to get the 19,000 with Kessel approved with some other method of testing. As long as we could get that done in time too, that the DOT would
So all that
reimburse
has
that.
to be done, my question, all that has to be done prior to submittal to the state.
No, I wouldn't think it would have to be done, as long as the state communicates to Kessel and allows them additional testing and they accept it, then we could go back and ask for that later. After this request, you can go back and ask again.
So what about Country Boy?
No. I mean, it's,
What
if
if
they
I
say,
ask them?
yeah, I mean, you can do that anytime. That won't have any bearing on the state's reimbursing the town.
But it will in terms of when we submit to the state,
Uh-huh.
that we pay the bill, check is clear, they won't care about the fact that we're gonna ask for reimbursement on that.
Well, like Gary said, I mean,
Yeah.
what you're saying, maybe you may need to go through the process of the request for reimbursement, you get
Yeah.
denied, then you can have clear evidence that you've got a shortfall in
Right,
the
that's what I'm
claim.
trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
That's maybe the better way to do it.
yeah, that might be a good way.
Yes, in case you wanna hurry up and get the
Yeah.
reimbursement request submitted.
This may be the most extreme, but Doug said the check's probably been cashed.
Oh, yeah.
But if it hadn't cleared, what about stopping payment and then work on it?
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
So,
That might be the first thing to do.
yeah, absolutely. That's right. That at least gives us some leverage, because I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I feel sure it has, but, I'll check.
But either way, if it has cleared, we probably at least need to make a request to be reimbursed with that amount, and then we'll at least have something in our file to say to the state, we're requesting it, we were denied. Here we go.
Yeah.
See what they say. you all need a motion from us to seek the reimbursement from Country Boy and Kessel.
Yeah, you could make it contingent on
DOT.
however much you're shorted from that DOT.
Yeah.
Y'all got that, right?
No, I did not. What was that? I'm sorry, I was thinking about something we discussed a few minutes ago, but, we think that.
I think the suggestion is you can make a motion that
Well, yes,
from this email that Todd wrote, that
it's going back to,
29,000 some change from the Country Boy,
We're asking-
19,000
this is what was
from
part
Kessel,
of the meeting.
1,500 from West.
Know how they want to handle it and how much we should deduct from the pay.
I'm gonna request those parties pay those
before we
amounts
sign
if
it for the town to
the
pay.
DOT denies reimbursing you for those amounts.
So, let me just step it to those, is that, first off, we wanna seek reimbursement from the state. We can apply that, right? And then, at the same time, have you guys go back to Country Boy and Kessel to try to get these dollars back? Or either they get it tested straightened out the state, whichever way they can do it. The net result is we get done.
Yes, sir.
You're only going to contact Kessel's. You're not gonna contact Country Boy. Is that what I'm understanding for you?
I thought,
Well,
that's what I heard.
we probably could, I mean, just give them a heads up and let them do some homework if they choose to.
Yeah.
Start working on it. See what their options might be.
Well, now, in your motion, you stated that we would request this money back if the state refuses to reimburse.
That's correct.
Right.
Correct.
So it's not something we can pick up the phone and do tomorrow morning. We'd have to wait for the state. I guess as a result of the pay application,
Correct.
see what kind of check we get from the state, whenever that is,
Correct.
and then go to Kessel and to Country Boy.
Correct.
So, I mean, I think your motion simply would be to approve the request for the pay application.
Yes, sir.
And then other steps will come after that.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, to what now, Gary?
The motion is simply to approve the full amount of the pay application.
The 128, whatever.
And then the other steps will follow after that.
But as part of the motion, the other steps you're speaking of?
No,
I don't think we
make
need to do the other steps until we get more information.
So we're approving the motion to pay application, which is going to the state. Right?
Right. Approve the pay application to the state.
And do not address what Ben you suggested at this time?
No, I think we do that after we get word back from the state.
See how
And
much
we also
they pay.
see if the check's cleared.
And we can readdress that in increments.
Are you gonna be able to apply for reimbursement without a canceled check, clear check?
No, you have to have a copy of the cleared check. It's into the
There's
state.
a conundrum there.
Well, I can get that.
So I,
What do you
Well,
mean?
it seems that what happens there is, if the check is cleared, then you can go in and send in the application for reimbursement. If the check has not cleared, then bring Country Boy in and say, all right, we need to get this done. And then at that point, the check will be written and with the adjustment and then the application sent in, since you said we've really got some more time.
yeah.
Right.
My only concern is, I'll need to sign this before we send it to the DOT. I don't like signing it knowing that,
I think that's only dependent on whether or not the check is cleared.
Right.
yeah.
We'll find that out tomorrow.
Yeah. I hate having to sign that knowing that,
Yeah, they'll call
We
you
didn't-
tomorrow, and let you know if the check's cleared. If it's cleared, then you can get a copy and send it in, all in, sign it, send it in.
you don't think I'll have, my concern is, like I say, signing this pay application for the 128,000, it's saying I approved that, and I don't. But we sent the check in for that, so I need to sign it for that. Is there a problem with me doing that, even though I disagree with it? Because it shouldn't have been the 128, but that's what we need to try to get reimbursed for. Does that make sense?
That is complicated there.
I don't like doing that, but I will do it if,
On council's Word.
Yeah.
Council's attorney's word.
Take that, and that was part of my question earlier,
Uh-huh.
is do we gotta go first to get the money? If that's not reimbursed, then that's the amount that we're going back to the state, saying,
Well, I think you could, sign it and with an explanation that, you know, it's subject to reduction in
Uh-huh.
these certain items,
these
or
items
denied by
are still-
DOT.
I don't want the DOT to come back to me and say, well, you signed it for that amount,
Yeah.
you told the town to pay that amount,
And
they
the
can't
town
get
is
that
saying
back.
on the other side, hey, you know, that's in dispute, right?
Yeah. So, well, I'll need advice on that.
What I've done before,
Guidance.
some other towns, similar situations, this DOT spec's a little different than our standard specs, it's probably similar, it's what you call a set-off. You can approve the payout, and then the engineer can recommend, or council can just decide on their own, that we're gonna set aside a certain amount for some issue, whatever it is, and you've got some issues on this project. So, I've done that before, sign the application, have a letter right there with it, and just put an asterisk on the application, for reference in the letter, saying that we recommend setting aside a certain amount, not paying the contractor a certain amount because of the issue. So that'd be my suggestion.
Yeah, if you can put this kind of explanation on it, sure.
Okay. Like I say, I didn't wanna be in a pinch if DOT comes to me and says, you signed it, you approved it, you did it.
So you'll sign it with an asterisk in the explanation.
Okay,
All right.
I'm okay with that.
Well, now, get back to the motion, are we gonna go with what Gary suggests then? Is this a motion that is being asked, concerning going ahead and approving the pay application for approximately $129,000?
They need that for the state.
Right, now, I'm asking, is that the motion that's being asked for?
Yeah.
I will make that motion.
So there's a motion on the floor to, accept the pay application. Is there a second? I'll second. Motion is made, receive a second. Other question or comment? Question around the contingency items. You all will still be working on that. Although,
Yeah.
I want to see some head nods. Okay. All right. Any other question or comment?
Yeah, so you want that motion to read, approve to accept full amount for payout application to the state.
Yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about all the headache.
If life was perfect, we wouldn't have jobs, would we?
Some trying to have questions on other projects, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be glad to answer those.
Yeah, well, Jim's here and.
The Mill Village project and our Berrien Springs project.
Yeah.
Both in different stages, but they're moving along.
How's Mill Village?
All right.
Yeah.
So the Mill Village project, they completed the section over here that goes to the fairgrounds, allows the elimination of the Fat Boys pump station. Over in Mill Village, they're putting all the main lines and they're in the process of hooking up the houses. And as you may not be surprised, some of those houses have some very unusual plumbing and we found one house, for some reason, the plumbing under, in the crawl space, even though it does not have a basement, just a crawl space, it goes down like 6 feet or more before it turns. So, and that ended up being too deep to tie into our, that's how deep our sewer is in the street, 5 or 6 feet. So it gets some fall. So we got a estimate from a plumber to go in the crawl space and bring it out beside the house shower. So that's one's, I think it's gonna be something like $1,800. So we'll be at our next construction meeting talking about that. That was a surprise. Other than that, it's gone pretty smoothly. I think one house had like 2 drains, like one for their washing machine and so forth. So we had to figure out how to connect, bring them back together into one tap. But anyway, pleased with that contractor, good progress. should be early, you know, this spring that we'll wrap it up. On the,
Early this spring, wrap up a little bit.
yeah, I mean, their deadline is something like June or July, I believe, but they're on track to finish up much sooner than that. Now, we've got the change order for that yet to be determined. We've done the plans for it and asked for pricing, and hopefully get that back soon. I think all the current council members were here back when the bids came in, and we decided that there was enough money in the budget to upgrade the Iredale Avenue pump station and the River Farm Road pump station. So we get a generator at one of them, a new motor at one of them, and new controls at both of them. So we're waiting on that price. So now that part may go on in to the summer, since we're adding that. The Isle Creek pump station will get a generator and the roof fix. That should be done this spring. So that's the Mill Village project. Then on the Barium Springs project, the plans were completed. As you all may recall, the plans were changed to add in the recreation center, the old YMCA, and the county's participating in the cost on that. So that was a win-win for both the county and the town by combining their projects. So we finished the plan, sent them off for permits and reviewed by the funding agency, Division of Water Infrastructure. So we'll be expecting comments back from them in the next month or two. We've asked Barium and the county to look at the plans because they have to sign the easements for that. So the county didn't have any comments. I'll just double check with Barium before we do the plats to get to you, Gary, for drafting the easements. There will be a small crossing of the Andrew property to get from the Barium property across Duck Creek and tie into the town's existing sewer. So those 3 easements will be needed. And then the Barium Springs, you may recall, we asked them to fix some of their leaks in their sewer system and then monitor it and see if they made any improvement. They did the monitoring. They put a device in that they borrowed to measure the flow through a manhole. And they tell me they've got the data, but they're not able to get it out of the device onto a computer so we can actually read it. So I've yet to see that, and that's still going to be something we'll require before we, start digging, putting pipe in the ground, or even put it out to bid. So that should be, later this year, it'll be ready to go out to bid and start construction.
And
Yes,
I
sir.
know Adam's not here, but I know you've been working with him on the water pressure problems of the Barium seasons.
Right.
Again, I apologize because he's not here. We should probably be asking him. Would you be able to update us a little bit about that?
I'll try it. Now, he and I have not talked about that issue for a couple of months. So I was kind of hoping no news is good news. Do you know different? Is it still a constant issue?
I live in that
Okay.
neighborhood, and it comes and goes, honest to God.
Right.
It could be fine for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, could be fine for a month. And the time is all off. I mean, I'm not trying to give everybody the knowledge of my life, but I've taken showers at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I've taken showers at 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
Okay? All of a sudden, they'll go to a triple at different times. But it like you just said, it's not a week straight or 2 weeks straight, it's a day, and then you don't see it again maybe for a couple of weeks. So, but I'll talk to Adam about that, but I just thought you guys were still kind of working on it.
Back when I was working on them, we recommended that we get the altitude valves of both tanks checked out. So my understanding is they did, and they're in good working order. Because those valves let the water in and out of the tanks. We know that when you get really good pressure, it's because the valve for purchasing from Energy United at Kyle's Crossroads, that's opening up to let water in. That's when the tanks get low, it calls for that valve to open and let the water in. So you're getting all that pressure coming from them. When the tanks get full, that valve closes, and then the tanks should provide the pressure to everybody throughout town. So something it seems to be restricting the flow to that neighborhood.
Yeah,
Sounds
I think that's the question, why
And
should
we,
we have that neighborhood?
I have recommended that they exercise every valve, make sure all of them are open. They say they've done that. So it is a mystery.
We just had a pretty serious water leak that required the tanks having to be depleted again this past Thursday, I wanna say. And they got fined by OSHA, and it was a day and a half issue because they didn't do things right. So things like that happened, and we was fortunate enough that town staff checked on them and saw, but that's happening twice. I know they had water leaks that caused the tanks to deplete from what they should have normally been.
Right. Good point. The last thing I suggest is to get a pressure monitor for your neighborhood where they can hook up to a hydrant and it creates a graph so that you can see when the blips are over time and see if there's any kind of pattern that we could maybe line up with what's going on with the tanks or with the Energy United purchase. And I think he was waiting on rural water to provide that service, but I don't know
Okay,
if that happened or not.
thank you very much.
What did you say that was?
A pressure monitor to be provided by North Carolina Rural Water Association.
You know, Rural Water was helping him up here at Braden Springs on those, that I&I.
Yep.
And
They
that
tried
kinda
out with
went
that.
away.
Yeah. It turned out their meter was not accurate.
Right.
So,
I hope if they help over there bury them, that their meter's accurate.
yeah, it'd be a different kind of meter. It's really just like a pressure gauge almost.
Right.
But
Yeah.
even with that, it doesn't have to be really accurate as long as we can kind of see the pattern. That's the main thing.
Any other projects?
Of course, all your private development projects, we're keeping tabs on all those. But that's all your projects that we're working on.
Anything else for Benji? Thank you both.
Okay.
I did want to say one more thing. I want to be 100% clear. We were asked about that we recommended paying it. We did clearly say no, but I did in October send an email to Brian and Steve recommending that they could go ahead and pay the undisputed amount, which would have been minus and off from the 128, anything that's disputed, and it would reduce it to like 98,000. So in October, I did recommend paying that amount. Just want to be 100% clear as I can. I wouldn't have felt right going home, because the last statement I said is we did not recommend, but we did in October suggest going ahead and paying that amount.
Hey, what amount, can you, again, what was that, the amount?
98.
Yeah, it was like 98 something, the undisputed amount.
Undisputed amount.
So we'd be taking off that 29 and whatever. So just to be clear, there was a time I did recommend paying part of it, so yeah.
Okay. Leaving us with 50,000 in dispute, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the 29, because that wasn't in dispute with the contract amount, that was with Kessel. So.
All right. Good to see y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. If you all will, on this coming Thursday's agenda, note on section 4, numbers 11 and 12, we got contacted today by the fire chief. He will not be available due to sickness. And also, we got a phone call from the librarian. They have nothing new to report, so we would like to remove numbers 11 and 12. I'm sorry, just remove those two, but in place of number 11, we would like to substitute ABC board and put Evelyn Walls. Leighton Getzinger will not be available himself, and he will send Evelyn Walls in his stead to give the ABC board report for Thursday. And that's the only change that I have to that, and we will come back and change the numbers, and I don't know specifically, Kim, where would you like to put, having Council Lady Felina? Do you have an appropriate place you want to put her?
Normally right after the recognitions, because you're gonna recognize, Mr. Bryant as him, you know, resigning and with the resolution.
Yes, right.
Okay, because that resolution's gonna be in consent, and then you're gonna do that. He's not gonna be here, is he? Or is he?
He hasn't told me.
Okay,
yet.
so the presentation or recognition of him, so I would say do it as, the next item,
So if
do
you
it
don't-
as 11,
Yes.
and put ABC as 12.
Okay,
That's the swearing in.
okay.
And Ms. Harris,
Mr. Mayor?
if you have a Bible that you would like to bring, you can bring your own, or we have one here, and then someone can hold it for you, bring a family member.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was just wondering, are we gonna honor, I know he maybe can't be with us, and I'd like to make sure we can honor him at the appropriate time. Are we gonna honor, Mr. Bryant with a type of plaque or anything like that?
A resolution.
Oh, okay.
So with, Pastor Morris not gonna be here, we're gonna take him off as doing the invocation also.
I didn't understand, yeah.
With Pastor Morris not going to be present, we're gonna take him off as doing the invocation.
I have actually already invited, tried to get Mr. Cowan to come in and for the invocation, if that's all right. I did not hear back from him this evening to see if Reverend Cowan can be here, but we've tried to get him here for invocation.
Otherwise, I've got my theme.
I'm sorry,
I
sir.
said, otherwise, I've got my themed invocation there.
You would let me know. I'll put something together real quick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's all I have for Thursday's agenda, if that's all right with you. One thing I would like to ask you all is just a personal preference, instead of just changing it, because I did not want to take the liberties of changing it. We all have certain nostalgia and certain things. We have discussed in staff meetings last week and this to try to get some things, and it will take us time to try to get some things that we are more uniform and consistent on, and it will take us a little bit of time to get there. But in even looking in at you all's agenda, this is the old logo that is on your packet. And just looking at some of the things that we do in town, we have, just like Sally's shirt, this is the logo that most of us are using now, and I did not want to change this without you all's input. Some of the letterhead that's here has a combination of a paddle and this logo, which to me was never approved by council as having those two. It was somebody, former staff member, did the paddle and the wheel. But again, this is our seal that's above Chambers, and it is definitely appropriate to be on this paperwork, but it is not appropriate necessarily for our letterhead to where we're using the paddle. But just as when we're doing documentation in staff emails, those things, we are going with the paddle unless you all give us a different directive, being that's what was voted on by council a few years ago to go with, is the paddle logo. But what say you as far as your council paperwork? Do you want to stay with the wheel, which sits in your chamber, or do you want to go with the paddle, which is what you all voted for as far as all of the other things that we are using?
Look at this, all right, the official seal is still, what's up there?
That is the official seal.
Right.
And, and that's, and not to interrupt you, sir, but the seal is not, this is not a sealed document.
Right.
If it was gonna go a logo, in my 2 cents, the logo would go here, not a seal.
Right.
The logo would be on official paper, the seal would go on official paperwork, the logo is what should be here, not the seal.
Well, that's my question. For consistency's sake, do we want to discuss and take action on changing our official seal to that, or do we want to leave it kind of what is now, that's the official seal, but everything else is the pattern?
I don't think you ever want to change your seal.
No, sir.
Right.
I agree, and
I remember, we changed it when we did that years ago. I mean, I remember that.
I agree in leaving the seal, and then using our logo as our logos, but using logos where logos should be used. And that's why I wanted to change the logo personally to be a logo, but then in the background, when you use your official documentation and the seal is in the background as a watermark, then it could be used as the watermark, but then use the logo on the paperwork the way it's supposed to be used would be my suggestion. I just did not want to take liberties of doing that without running it by you all first.
Well, that to me, here's what you say, if that's the will, that leave the seal that we have now as the official seal, then I would certainly agree. In terms of legal documents, we use that. All other, we use the pattern.
Yeah, I think that is more of a marketing, to communicate to the community on the marketing side.
Right.
But I think the seal, whether you tweak it or change it or whatever, you still should have a panel seal, if you will, not a logo or marketing slogan, if you will.
No, I understand.
I think those are the differences.
Okay, so again, to address what Doug's saying, I would, make it official, and I would be glad if that's needed. Or if it just needs instruction that the seal is saved for legal documents, all other takes the paddle, the paddle wheel logo. Paddle wheel, or paddle, rather, logo.
So motion's on the floor to save the seal for legal documents. All others can have the logo. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion's on the floor, receives a second. Question or comment? Mr. Harris, you have a comment? No. Okay.
I'm sorry, who seconded that? Sally?
Sally.
Okay, sorry, Sally. Just a hair faster than George.
Sometimes the process will not reach that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. That gives some direction on that.
This one.
We do have, just to remind you, Mr. Mayor, the appointment for the delegate for the North Carolina League of Municipalities that was on the paperwork went out in the agenda packet. We actually have a meeting scheduled.
You had that for,
Thursday.
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 And I apologize in it being on there for Thursday. However, they sent us an email wanting. Yesterday, yeah, on Sunday, wanting.
Well, no, I'm sorry, was it Friday? It
They
was Friday.
sent it out Friday wanting, to send out more, if I can get to the page, wanting more, information before you all's Thursday's meeting. And I apologize, it came in late Friday. Asking for that, and I hate to put you all in a bind, being as it was in your packets to be considered for Thursday.
Yes, I got it.
Okay, so it's an open house,
that they're gonna hold tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow online for whoever the delegate is to go on, and they're gonna go over all of these 17, policies, proposed legislative policies.
Thought they whittled it down to 10.
Well,
They
you're gonna
sent
vote on
out
10.
17, but you've got to
You
come
got to
down
vote on
to
10,
I
and
thought
then,
they had come to 10.
No,
I thought they had.
what's in the packet is all 17.
Right,
Right.
okay, well, I thought I read where they had met, they had a committee, and the board of directors had approved it, that they whittled down to 10. Yeah, I understand it, but I thought they'd already done that, with this special committee, but, okay.
no, but tomorrow is an open house, and I have the email, so whoever is appointed tonight, I'll send it to you. And you can go on there and, they'll be reviewing these 17, and then the vote comes later. I think the vote's Friday.
You have to do it by, in the paperwork, it
Right.
said,
You have to register
form, and it
online.
has to be done by January 15th.
Yep.
And again, no disrespect intended toward council persons now in Harris. Based off of what I read in that, I do think this is for senior council persons who have been involved with town business a little bit longer, and have more of a history of what town government and business has been. And I mean, no disrespect to you two gentlemen whatsoever.
No, thank you. I was kind of thinking that same when I looked at through these goals, it's just kind of.
I do think that it gives a little more history of what is intended there. You all, of course, can select whomever you choose. I think that the history of what has been going on, and having participated in some of these other, I finally found my paperwork, what has been happening throughout, not just Troutman and our surrounding communities, but also through the state, and having participated in some of these committees, and your experience as council persons definitely would give you an opportunity to know some of the terminologies and different things that's being voted on. Also, the various experiences, and just like the situations that we had tonight, even though that may be the first unique thing that we've had here, there's other opportunities and experiences that we may have had similar history in the town of Troutman, or something similar that you've had to deal with as an elected official, that would give you some idea of what you need to vote on. Different things, like it's talking about economic development, how you've had to deal with that. One of the questions that Mayor Pro Tem Hinkle talked to future Council Lady Harris about was having to make hard decisions on telling some of your church members and or neighbors no on some of these things when it comes to adding residential development or commercial growth, things of that nature. I do think that's why it would be beneficial to have a veteran council person appointed to this position. And I hate to spring that on you all at the last minute, but based off of what they're wanting to do orientation wise, I do think it would be wise if you all could go ahead and be so kind as if one of you veterans would volunteer and or appoint one another this evening, so that could start tomorrow. Do you remember what time the orientation was? If that will help them.
But I'll send out the email when I go back to my office tonight. I'm not sure.
Because that may disqualify one of you veterans.
Tomorrow's pretty busy for me, so I do need to know, because I have a meeting already here tomorrow.
You want me to go look real quick?
If you don't mind, I'm sorry. This will give me a chance to ask some other questions about it. I'm assuming this is a new thing, since we've never had a delegate there before. And is this going to be a one and done once you narrow down your 10 things and they don't need you anymore? Or is this gonna be once a month, or
I don't.
ever so often?
I think it is going to be, at least initially, this kind of sets what their goals is going to be for the year. But like you, I've not been familiar with this having been done before. So I would hate to limit my answer to tell you it's a one and done.
Right.
I do know that they periodically, as Mr. White said, set their priorities for the legislative session. And they like to hear from the municipalities before they do that. So do they have updates throughout the year once the session gets started and complete? I think the answer to that is yes. So you can sit in on those, but this is kind of the voting opportunity where you vote on, you know, should this be a priority for the league?
Right.
So they like to hear from every municipality in doing that.
Right.
Trying to think of other times when we've had voting. There has been, like, during the session, there's something comes up, and they go, okay, we need to hear from municipalities, because this came up prior to, or after session started. So I think the answer is yes, there could be periodic, I just don't know if there's a cadence to the meetings.
Okay.
Well, you said you had a meeting here tomorrow, is it something with rec or,
No, it's, an interview.
the only reason excuse me.
Interview for a planner.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, the only reason I asked was that, you know, something maybe, if you're interested, I mean, I'll be glad to do it, but if you're interested, I'm fine with you doing it if you would like. I'll be glad to, if you feel like you don't have the time or whatever, I'll be glad to do it. But I thought something that you could maybe work in,
Right.
if you are interested and want to do it, then
Right.
it's something you could work around and maybe even do while you're here tomorrow. You know, as opposed to having to go home and at a certain time, you can just do it while you're here. Again, I'm just throwing that out, if you're interested, I'm fine with you doing it, otherwise, I'll be glad to do it.
Okay.
While they are studying that, I would like to also point out in the packets for the rest of you council persons to please review these appointments that we have on council now, what you currently have. I had spoke with the mayor over this. The reason we put those appointments in there with Councilman Bryant's vacancy, no disrespect intended toward Council Lady Harris, but sometimes we get different appointments. You all get different appointments to council and volunteer, but like with Councilman Harris and now, once they came on, different assignments got appointed, but with that vacancy, there may be one of the appointments or positions that Councilman Bryant had that somebody else would like, and with that vacancy, it would be more appropriate or opportune time for somebody to take that appointment now instead of just that appointment's automatically going to Council Lady Harris. So look at those, and if there are any changes to any current council appointments, please let us know Thursday night if there needs to be any changes on that also. It is January 12th, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m., which is during your interview.
Interview.
So that answers that.
Right. Okay, Paul.
I said I'll do it, I'll do it.
So we need to make have a motion to have Paul as our delegate for the 2021-2022 biennium legislative policy, and just to take this off of Thursday's agenda, and we will handle that tonight. So is there a second motion? I'll make that motion. The Paul is made, Paul be the delegate. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made, receive the second. Other question, comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Seeing none, Paul, appreciate you volunteering for that.
Yes, sir.
As Mr. White said, there are 3 other appointments that need to be made. You all have until Thursday to think about things, but hopefully we can be swift and immediate. If you've got an interest, let me know. If you already have one, then we can handle those. And if you need more detail on what they are, detailed job descriptions.
Yeah.
The pay increases, the daily,
And overtime.
yeah.
I just want to mention Lake Norman, of course, I know Paul was handling that lately, but unfortunately, by the time he went on, they kind of, I'm not gonna say cease to exist, but they don't really meet. They've had one Zoom meeting, and then everything else has just been held in abeyance until Buck gets their act back together, and they've got a reason to meet. So, whoever that is, that we picked, Thursday night, going, knowing that it's not one of those where you gotta hit the ground running, going to meetings. It's just kind of silent right now, but it is it's a very important, I've done it, and Paul took it over, a year ago, and whether, whoever it is, it is important, and it's good information, and I would recommend it for anybody that's interested, and I guess I'm talking to myself as well. I mean, that's not to go back to, you could go back too, but if someone else is interested, I would recommend it, and hopefully within the next little while, I'll put it that way, Dot is able to get their act together where the commission can go back into meeting once a month and start making some plans for our future, because right now everything's kind of up in the air.
Yeah. Well,
Just
part of it really is funding's not there, so from DOT, so from a transportation perspective, they pretty much paused most of the meetings. However, CRTPO, which is kind of handling the region, is still doing really type meetings. So I'm the delegate, but there's always an alternate, right? So if I'm not able to make it, that alternate can be there to make that decision. What I would say is if there are multiple people who are doing CRTPO and LNR, I should just call it LNTC, that they have to communicate, because CRTPO is looking at the region, and the Lake Norman group is looking at what's in our area. So whatever is discussed here needs to be bubbled up to CRTPO so it can be on the agenda. So just having some communication there, if those are different, help.
And it gives you, not only Lake Norman, as well as CRPTO, but it gives you an opportunity to meet local officials that are part of that commission, and get to know them and work with them on a local level, as well as the mayor said, move up to the CRPTO, which is more regional, meeting and getting and working and planning with those folks too. So both positions are important. And,
probably not far from Miss Harris's office anyway.
Yeah.
Mayor, is it Lake Norman Regional Transportation Commission?
I always call it Lake Norman Transportation Commission.
So take the regional out, maybe, okay.
LNTC.
All right,
I saw the R there and it threw me for a minute.
okay.
And it pretty much included all of Iredell County, but for some reason I wasn't there when they named it, but it includes all of Iredell. So again, folks can think about that from now on. You're not exempt from wanting to volunteer.
I thought I was gonna get exempt.
I did think the problem I'm gonna have now, I've got two Harrises on this board. I don't know what you're talking about. You were talking about diversity, I'm going, what just happened? Anyway.
Well, at least it's not two Pauls.
Right.
We can get by with George and Felina, but two Pauls, what?
Yeah, I thought I got rid of that problem. I still got the Harris problem. All right, anything else, Mr. White?
Yes, sir. You all had asked a couple times about the Wagner Street building. These are not final plans by no means, but I would like to have you all's permission to at least start some demolition on the interior of the Wagner Street building. And talking with Emily Watson and Paxton back here, who's leaving now.
He was summoned by the police.
We have some general ballpark numbers of, depending on which way we want to go with the building, talking about you all as council, all of us as we as the town, and a business plan to make it a business-ready building. We're in the ballpark of $15,000. That's to remove the T11 and interior walls, remove some cabinets, install some basic lighting, window sills, new electric outlets, flooring, front and back door, paint walls, windows, bath vanities, molding, doorknobs, bifold doors, front steps, and vinyl. Of course, some of that, depending on who we've made it available to for commercial business use, we wouldn't have to do all of that. Some of it we would, depending on how we did it. But in the ballpark of $15,000, and those are not exact numbers. To make it more residential, most of the above would be done. Leave interior walls, but refresh the cabinets. We would need less ceiling tiles. You're looking at about $6,000 on the interior, about $5,500 exterior, and that's same $5,500 on the exterior improvements. And this is with Paxton doing the majority of the work. Both of these are rough estimates for materials needed for each plan. The demo and remodel would take about 3 to 4 weeks, and we would need some tools and a construction dumpster on site during the demo. I've already had one person reach out that is interested in using it for a commercial business and have an appointment to show it to them next week. I tried to push them off and not show it to them because it is in such poor conditions. But they are insisting upon and have a commercial building background themselves, and they want to see it, and we've scheduled an appointment for them to see it because I, like some of you all, do believe and see the potential of that building being used in a couple different varieties. So I think it serves you all, at least in having options and letting a person come and see it, and who knows what the potential is. I personally have not walked in the building to see it. We're going to try to do that tomorrow, and so that I can see it. I still believe, as I have talked to some of you all, that it is a building that we as a town could use for our needed office space, regardless of what that is, whether it's going to be a couple different options that we could use it there. But until we do, I'm just giving you a couple different options that you all had asked for and give you some real monies. It's my understanding that we have this much money already set aside and fees that have been collected for that. It would not come out of any existing fees, but I would like to have you all's permission to go ahead and start at least demolition on the building. That has to be done regardless of what we're going to do with it, whether it's use it as residential or use it as commercial, so that we can at least get to the bones of what's going to happen with that building. Right now, in talking with Emily and Paxton, we've got a couple months window before we're going to have to start using him in some serious work. He's been goofing off too much, quite frankly, with all of this Christmas stuff that we got these accolades for. He's got that put up this week, so we really got to find some work for him to get busy on, as if he's not been doing enough. But we've got still some harsh weather that's coming, that if we had something like this to do, he works some very odd hours, and quite frankly, and being sincere with my comments, if we had some indoor work, it would be welcome this time of year with the weather that we're getting ready to have, that could keep him busy and utilize his skill set a little bit more. But I throw that out there to you. If y'all got any questions, we're both here and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Are you talking both levels or just the first level? Or?
At this point with those numbers, it's just the first level.
Okay, and we still have a renter on top, no?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay.
I would personally think we should have, looking at commercial and not residential,
In my opinion, long-term best return for the town's investment, it absolutely would be best commercial. And quite frankly, it would be best commercial on both levels. But at this point, to get us started, this is,
Yeah, just the bottom thing.
yes, sir.
So does your proposal offer, you said exterior, what does that include?
Paxton? We've got to bring some stuff on the exterior up to code, quite frankly, but that's some paint and some cosmetics, and what else you want to offer?
On there also, reason that the same figure is on both line items is the doors and the windows definitely need to be updated. The windows are leaking and causing some rot in the seals. Nothing that's majorly structural, it's just more cosmetic now that needs to be changed. And of course, putting a storefront door on that to be commercial wise. If not, you may want to go with a different residential door. On the back, we're thinking more of replacing both of those windows that are broken and putting in a new door back there. The only thing that I forgot to add on that was painting of just the front, how some of the other buildings are downtown there. Painting just the front, I forgot and left that out of there, and I'd have to look it up. It was somewhere around $3,500, and that was to do some more sealing of the brick and to and paint the front of it.
So whatever that the paint color would look like, it would be something consistent with the downtown that I assume would be pleasing. Right now we got some colors already in our downtown that are interesting, but again, I think part of the initiative for council buying that was just clean it up, right, and be able to give some character to the building that others could, I don't say replicate, but at least build off of, right? And so I would hope whatever we decide to do, it is something that maybe we can, help replicate. Others might think about replicating similar aesthetics, if you will, for the downtown.
Yes, sir.
I guess the other piece of that is there are two doors there. Is the thought that you would combine that to one, or you're gonna leave the?
By code, you would have to leave that one because you have to have two egresses.
Okay.
What was that again? I'm sorry, what about code one?
You would have to have two egresses from the upstairs apartment. You have the back door coming off the back deck, and then that would be the other one. You're
Okay.
required to have two, just like that unit has the front door and the back door.
Right.
Okay. Well, I agree with George. I've always looked at commercial, whether the town uses it temporarily or permanently, whatever the future holds, or in the case of someone looking to turn it into commercial property, use it themselves, or maybe do more to it and flip it. I think the biggest thing is to upgrade that area. I think, at least in my mind, that was the reason we bought it, was to enhance downtown and to kind of set the example for others to follow, hopefully, of cleaning it up and fixing it up, sprucing it up. And actually, I'm glad that you've got those capabilities to come in and do that. You say, what, about 3 to 4 months? Do you feel like?
No. Less than 2 months' time.
2 months, that's 2 months. Thank God we're finally doing something. So, I would certainly support moving forward, fixing it up, making it presentable to show the commercial tenants, as well as continue to look at it from the town using it as you continue to get cramped and more cramped, I'm sure, here as time goes on. But either way, I speaking for myself, I would love to see it revitalized, even in just this small way. If it can be done in the next 2 to 3 months, 2 months, we'll say whatever.
Okay.
Has there been any updates on the mural that goes on the building?
It's a work in progress.
Oh, did you have, Paxton raised his hand, so
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I actually just talked to Emily about this think it was today, and she said that she had emailed them, and the ball's kind of in their court, they're ready to go.
Oh, okay.
Now, this is the firm out of Victory?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Print pass.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Is there a motion that we go into closed session?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. We made, we go into closed session. Now I'll make the motion, who do we need in the room?
I think in Tuck White, I don't think we need Gary. It's not illegal. We do, we don't need him? Okay. Anyone else, Mr. Manager?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to my end, or I was speaking.
You're good to go.
Okay.